It has been an amazing year for us. Thank you so much, all the community managers that have been here. Thank you for making 2024 one which we can't forget in a hurry. So I would actually allow us to just take a little time to just invite others on the call. As our population and our attendance is growing, right? I want us to also invite others that today's session is going to be really, really intense, and no one wants to miss today, right? No one wants to really miss today. Thank you so much for making our time to be here, everyone. Thank you for day one. Thank you for day two. Thank you, because day three is also going to be very, 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 very interesting. I promise you, it's not going to be long, but it's going to be very precise, and you're going to be motivated. Ladies and gentlemen, once again, we say thank you for an amazing 2024. Thank you for making our time. And I believe my SDG social enterprise has the program has already improved your ideology on you owning all the projects that we have done in 2024 in Mind the Gap. And 2025, we believe that we're going to make use of all of what we have learned in 2024 and ensure that our communities and all of the projects we will get involved in will be better than what it was in 2024. Thank you so much, because there is also a mobile app which we spoke about that has been launched, and every one of us, I believe, we are followed and we are stay put on Mind the Gap's handle so that we can retweet, follow, and make use of that the application that the federal government and the honorable minister has launched. We're going to be diving deep into that later on, but I just want to say thank you once again. We are 35 from my radar here that are on the call, and without further ado, I think we are going to take the national anthem. We're going to take the national anthem. Mercy, if you are good, we are good, right? For the national anthem. If you are good, we are good. While Mercy is getting prepared to take over from here, so we start the national anthem and dive deep into why we are here today. I just want you to help me in the chat box, introduce yourself, tell us the state you are joining from. We already have our speakers here, the facilitators are here, and the core team of Mind the Gap, and all of you that are part of the Mind the Gap family, DL for all, on the job, digital onboarder, CDS, youth empowered, generation leaders, ex-presidents, presidents, CDS members. We want to say thank you for being here. We want to say thank you for being here. Mercy, if you are ready, we are ready. All right, thank you, Mercy. I think Mercy is ready. All right, at the count of three, we are going to start with the national anthem. 1, 2, go. Thank you so much, Mercy. Thank you so much, everyone that can sing the national anthem. I must say you are doing well. And I think as a patriotic Nigerian, every one of us should be able to sing the national anthem. And I think going forward from next year, we're going to actually do a challenge for anyone who can sing the national anthem from stanza 1, stanza 2, and we're going to get that as a 1 minute feedback, right? So we're going to be sure of those persons that knows only stanza 1 and they don't know stanza 2, right? Thank you so much once again for joining us this morning. Yes, from day 1, day 2, we've been getting the facilitation from amazing facilitator. Today is just going to give us a recap and a summary. Then we'll call up on Mr. Tayo Oloshunde, the executive director, the visioneer, the man who has been a leader, a friend, someone who has laid down his life, right? For 15 good years, Mind the Gap has been standing, and we're going to call him up when Dr. Shedrack just give us a pep talk, a summary of day 1, day 2. Then Mr. Tayo Oloshunde will be wrapping up today. If your friend is not here today, I beg you, just dive into their DM and let them know today's session is going to be far better than what we had yesterday, day before yesterday, because we have a professional, a thought leader that is versatile in this field. Right now, I'm going to call up on Dr. Shedrack Teresa to wrap up my SDG. From day 1, day 2, we've been getting so much inspiration, so much ideas. I could remember he spoke about you put impact before profit. I could remember when he spoke about you being an innovator, right? How to raise funds, right? How to position yourself rightly. Day 1, day 2 has been very, very interesting. And I know day 3 will be very, 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 very much better than day 1 and day 2. It can only get better. Ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, please, can you help me give a proper emoji, a welcoming emoji as we welcome Dr. Shedrack Teresa as he comes up and take us into my SDG, social enterprise.
Thank you very much, Myra. Thank you so much for the warm welcome. Good morning again. Happy Friday to all of us. It's been an incredible, I would say, 2 days so far. Today takes us to the 3rd day of learning around this very important conversation around social entrepreneurship. And I'm grateful to Mind the Gap for putting together this initiative in intentionally identifying young people who are interested and looking for the needed support to be able to build social enterprises that transform in remarkable ways our complex and wicked problems as a nation. And Mind the Gap itself, it's a classical example, like I've said for the last 2 days, of what a social enterprise should be, because it ticks all of those boxes very, very neatly. Day 1, we began just to be able to understand the concept of social entrepreneurship, or who a social entrepreneur is. And I said then that that person is an individual who is enterprise oriented, but focused on impact. To say that they are looking to solve a problem, and in the process of solving that problem, get a profit out of it. So what that means to say is that as a social entrepreneur, your focal point or your motivation is not about the money you're looking to get. You're thinking about the value or the impact that you're going to bring in your community before anything else. And that's why in this space we say your reward comes from the service that you offer. Now, going down to day 2, of course, we talked about the different types of or the different forms in which social entrepreneurship takes, where we talked about the community, the organizational, the international, all of this carry different forms, but at the center of it is trying to be able to transform systems in positive ways. Going into day 2, we talked about how you can be able to build a sustainable social entrepreneurship idea or organization or company. Because we call it social entrepreneurship because it's about impact. And impact that is not sustainable would always result to simply loss of resources. So knowing how you can efficiently build models that ensure sustainability, and that simply means that beyond you, it's able to run, is what we talked about yesterday. And we talked about a very, very important demography where I spoke very clearly about the bottom of the pyramid. So these are simply those people who are living below $2 per day, right? And there's a business model around these people. There are people who are in rural communities. There are people who are struggling to make a living. There are people who are vulnerable. There are people who do not have access to the basic amenities that are available for others to be able to access. So they are regarded as the bottom of the pyramid, and they account for over 4 billion of of the people out of the fraction of 8 billion. So remember that according to the World Bank, our population is around, it has we have crossed the 8 billion mark, which was a couple of months ago. So that means that 50% of people across the world are at the bottom of the pyramid. Now, when you might be thinking, okay, well, these people don't even have up to $2 per day to spend. How are they now an opportunity? That is where a social entrepreneur comes in. Because where people see problems, a social entrepreneur sees challenges that are meant to be solved, right? So I spoke to the different characteristics that help you understand this demography, from being largely rural in the informal sector, poor individual purchasing power, but have a higher collective purchasing power. So if you understand how to be able to plug in your value in these communities, which is something I spoke very clearly to yesterday, you can now be able to begin your journey of building a viable business model that addresses this. Imagine tapping into a market that potentially has 4 billion people. If you narrow it down to Africa, it's more than 1 billion. If you narrow it down to Nigeria, you would know that 40 to 50% of people in this country are not having it very funny. It can even be higher. So building models that tap into this reality is what I spoke very strongly to yesterday. And then I talked about how you can bootstrap your way to validation, where I said, because money is a critical component of building anything, right? Sometimes people are unable to take off simply because of that. But I made a very clear statement yesterday when I said, when you are in this space, you will realize that you do not need money necessarily to start. You need it to grow and scale. That means that as a social entrepreneur, if your only asset is financial, you have not started. So that means if they drop a project on your table that doesn't have money to it and they're saying run this on zero budget, do you have the social network or the social capital to be able to deploy to make that happen? It might not be perfect, but can you make it happen? Can you initiate a process? That is how you test your validity. And in speaking to the merit of this, I said it teaches you resilience. It helps you push beyond your limits, even when you have a, a very short or small or even non-existent budget to be able to play with. Then I closed yesterday by saying, in whichever angle you're looking at this whole thing I've said, as a social entrepreneur, one thing you should have at the back of your mind is that you must always put principles over precedence. Most of the problems we solve, sometimes we are solving them for the first time, sometimes we are trying to replicate a model that has worked in another space. What this teaches you is that you are not necessarily inventing anything new, you're simply connecting to an existing principle. And I remember using the example of the Wright brothers. At the time the Wright brothers were able to make the plane fly, they didn't invent new physics principles. The laws were there. They simply just tapped into it. When Elon Musk was talking about making a reusable rocket that can go to the moon, come back and land, go back again, there was no precedent as at that time that somebody has done that. But the principles supported it. So regardless of what you want to achieve in your life as we wrap up 2024, as we begin 2025, every time you want to take a step, ask yourself, Does principles support this? It doesn't matter whether it has ever been done before. Does principles support this? If I took off today, are those principles in place for me to be able to succeed? It's just like you who wants to get a PhD. And maybe you say, well, no one in my family has ever gotten a PhD. That is precedence. But does principle support it? Yes. You go to school, you study well, you get good grades, you look for a scholarship, you go through, you study hard, you pass your exams, the PhD is there for you. So principles over precedence any day. Now, finally, what I said yesterday, which I want to highlight again before I move into the conversation of today, is what I said. As a social entrepreneur, you must build with your communities. Most often, as social entrepreneurs, or even as development workers or people who want to be able to solve a problem, we think that we know better than the communities who have been struggling with these problems. So we often just come with this superior approach of, well, you people don't have a health center, we're going to build. You people don't have water supply, we're going to dig a borehole. You people don't have access to finance, we're going to do XYZ, without even interacting with these people to know what their pain points are. So as a social entrepreneur, building must be happening side by side with this set of people we regard as bottom of the pyramid. What that means is that you're going there, even if you have your own approach. Remember, as social entrepreneurs, our success is closely tied to the quality of questions we ask when we are engaging to build a process. And that's why if you look at lean methodologies, if you look at the concept of design thinking or human-centered design thinking, it speaks about putting the customer or the user or the beneficiary at the center of the process. So you must always have that at the back of your mind and be flexible. Don't say that, well, I want to do this way, so I would implement it like that. Project implementation can never be linear. If you leverage a linear approach, you're going to struggle with it. You're not going to get the result you're looking for. And at the end of the day, it's going to cost you resources and money. And then you end up still not delivering on what you want to do. So it's important to have that at the back of your mind. Now, moving to today, we would wrap up our conversation with building sustainable ventures, like I said. And this is simply going to focus on how you can navigate regulations and corporate governance in terms of understanding the legal frameworks and best practices of social entrepreneurs. Now, why is this important? We are not a banana island. We are governed by laws and processes. And every single entity is governed or has a backbone of a structure. So at MySDGs, for instance, we know the number of projects we have handled this year. We know the number of activities we have handled this year. They don't just wake up from the blue and say, oh, we want to face in this location or blah, blah, blah. There is a guidance structure. And if you go behind, you know that MySDGs has a board, MySDGs has employees, MySDGs have a CEO, MySDGs has a legal representative. All of these components that ensure that the organization functions in alignment with the laws of the land speaks to the corporate structure of the organization. And if you're talking sustainability of your own organization, beyond just registering it with CAC and filing with the Federal Inland Revenue Service, there are several other things you must pay attention to. And because the one was telling you what this business of social entrepreneurship is, the two was teaching you how to be able to start and build and grow. Now let's ensure that what you're building is sustainable. And there are a couple of things you need to be able to pay attention to. What are those considerations to make? The first thing is you need to consider your entity selection. What this means is that, what do you want to set up as? Are you setting your social enterprise as an NGO or as a business? You need to be able to decide that from the get-go because the structure varies. It could be a full-blown business, limited liability. It could be a social enterprise. It could be an NGO. It could be a partnership. You need to decide on the entity that you are picking up. Now, when you decide on that, The next thing is to also pay attention to intellectual property. In Nigeria, we don't pay so much mind to this, but it's a gold mine in itself. What I tell people is, and is something I'm supposed to speak to tomorrow, especially in the academia, I see it a lot. A lot of people who are lecturers and researchers keep churning out interesting things, but when they now publish, the whole thing stops and ends there. Some of them don't even publish. They just bind, the thing is somewhere on the shelf and chapter closed. But as a business owner or someone who wants to be able to play in the space of social entrepreneurship, you need to be able to pay attention to intellectual property, right? Whether it's your trademarks, whether it's your copyright, whether it's your patents. Of course, this means different things, but you need to pay attention. Which of them are you likely to generate, right? Then regulatory compliance. I mentioned that the obvious one, which is respect to having your business registered. So that's of course, the basic one everyone does. You do your CAC, you are registered, and people are able to say, okay, this you file with FIRS. But beyond that, there are several other things that you need to be able to pay attention to, and we'll be picking them as we go. Then there's the component of employment law. Because your business is not going to run as a one-man show. It means you're going to employ people, you're going to have people join your organization and work with you. There are certain things you need to put in place. And because Nigeria also has its employment laws, there's a minimum wage, there's salary schemes and all that border both on the public and on the private sector. It is important for you to pay attention to that and also communicate it clearly. Then contractual agreements. Mind the Gap, for instance, does a lot of projects with partnership with several organizations, right? Where it could be Ministry of Youth, it could be Google, it could be Microsoft, it could be banks. There are several organizations, and to ensure that everything is done properly, it is important to always look out for contractual agreements. What this means for you to as a business owner is, because you are setting up, it's important for you to make that consideration to say, okay, these are the kind of interfaces I'll be having. Even contracts, you also even have them even with your employees, right? So it's important for you to also have that at the back of your mind. Then risk management. This is also something to pay attention to. Every social enterprise has a set of potential risks that they can encounter. The goal is not simply about identifying those risks. It's also about figuring out how you can efficiently address them as a social entrepreneur. So, and of course, there are several tools that you can be able to use to carry out a risk analysis. If you're doing a SWOT analysis, that's you trying to figure out what your strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats are. If you're doing a pestle analysis, that's you trying to know the political, the economic, the social, the technology, the environmental, and the legal components as far as your entity is concerned. So you need to be able to highlight what your risks are as far as that business initiative or that organizational focus is, and how you're going to mitigate them. It's not enough to say you have identified. How are you going to mitigate it? So in terms of choosing the right, legal framework, there are a couple of things you need to ask yourself, which I spoke to before, right? One is, like I said, deciding, are you trying to run a non-profit? Are you looking to run a for-profit? Are you looking to do a hybrid, which again is others will call social enterprise? Whichever one you decide, that's the first step to put at the back of your mind. Then, in terms of understanding the legalities, in terms of taxation and all, you need to know how to navigate it. In Nigeria, for instance, I think this was signed during Buhari's administration, President Buhari's administration. If your company is making less than 25 million naira per annum, you are tax exempted. But that does not mean you just not now go and file. What that means is that once you go and file your yearly returns with Federal Inland Revenue Service, you are exempted because you did not make up to 25 million per annum. So that way they will just file, give you your tax clearance certificate. It's important for you to know these things so that you know exactly how you are navigating. Most organizations that want to sponsor and work with you would require your tax clearance certificate. If you don't have that, they will not even want to comply, or I mean, want to proceed with you. So it's something that you want to address very, very clearly. Then, if there are other tax obligations, you also ask, and then you know. Then, of course, as NGOs, not just NGOs, that's KUMO, that you hear EFCC talking about, it's very important. I think for NGOs precisely, because most of the money for NGOs are coming through donations, grants, and all. If you do not have it, you might open an account today, money will enter inside, but you cannot access it. So it's important for you to be able to also address that. Then, in terms of intellectual property rights, for social innovations, I've already said something about this. You want to know clearly how you can manage the different strategies that you can manage this. And I spoke to three broad categories: trademarks, copyrights, and patents. So let me explain what these three different ones mean, right? Your copyrights are those literally kind of works. So let me say you wrote a book, right? You have copyright to that. Let's say if you look at Mind the Gap's website, right? The code that the website was built on is Mind the Gap's property. So that is copyright. Then for trademarks are for things like designs. So let's say you Mind the Gap has a logo, Mind the Gap has a name, Mind the Gap Nigeria, right? So if they don't want anybody to use that name again, Mind the Gap can now say, and I believe this is probably even done, So if you go and start Mind the Gap Nigeria now, Mind the Gap would sue you for infringing on their trademark, the logo and all of that. Then to patents. Patents are more like design. So let's say you make a design today, you can file for a patent. Maybe you just invented a new way of achieving something. You can file for a patent. Why these things are important is because intellectual property rights are being trampled upon very well. And if you do not protect your ideas or your your products, someone else would attempt to steal it. And I remember in the early boom of the internet, there were a lot of suing and counter suing by technology companies. Even till today, these things happen. So but when you protect all of this, just even think even on the commercial side, it's not every time that you have an idea that you might even be interested in pursuing it on your own. But because you're protected it, you can be able to approach people who will implement it, and you also get benefits out of it. Then it's important to also understand the different barriers to intellectual property protection. If you protect in Nigeria, does it cover for other countries? It's important for you to know all of that. Then you must also decide. For some people, as social entrepreneurs, you may want to even build an open source solution. By open source, you're saying you want to build something free. The likes of Mozilla Firefox is open source. What that means is that code is entirely free. I think Wikipedia open source. I think so. A lot of people contribute to it. So if you decide that, well, you want to build an open source platform, then you need to also clearly state that, right? So again, I spoke very briefly again about the employment law compliance, where I said in setting your minimum wage, in planning insurance cover, discrimination policies, diversity in workplaces. It is important for you to define that. And some of you might say, well, I've not started yet. Do I need to do this now? Please do. It's important that before you take off, you want to plan all of these things. You want to document it very, very clearly so that you know exactly what you're doing at every time. As long as it is a business conversation, you want to have all of these things clearly defined. Then, in terms of financing, as a social enterprise, you need to be clear on the kind of financing that you're going after, right? Are you seeking equity financing? And equity financing simply means, are you saying somebody should come and invest in what you're doing in return for a percentage ownership? Are you looking for debt financing? This is where you're taking a loan at an interest rate to repay back. Are you looking at grants and donations? So these are monies that you do not have to repay back, but have clearly defined implementation plans around them. Are you looking at crowdfunding? Crowdfunding is very popular. I remember Mind the Gap also floated another one with respect to supporting core members crowdfund. It's called Fund the Cause, right? So crowdfunding is very popular. There are several crowdfunding platforms. You need to also ask yourself, is that a good model for you? Then impact investing. Impact investing is simply focused on, if I give you money to do something, a part of that, that thing must have direct impact on the communities. So people, donors or organizations are no longer just interested in giving you money. They want to be sure that there is that direct impact on the communities that you're going to be engaging with. Right. So in terms of contractor agreements, which I mentioned initially, right, you want to strengthen this very well, where you're looking at the nature of the contract, the kind of compliance that is supposed to happen, even dispute resolution. I'm talking internally and I'm talking externally. Internally, because amongst employees, employees, there could be disputes. What is the strategy for you to resolve those kind of challenges? Then amongst the organization and other organizations, what is the way out? So these are things you plan ahead. You don't just say, well, nothing bad will happen. You're not sure. So you want to be watertight as far as avoiding all of this are concerned. Then you want to look at areas of exposure. What are those areas that your organization would likely run into trouble, and what are you going to do about it? Just like I spoke about risk mitigation. Then reporting is also very important. Every sustainable organization needs to be able to communicate what they are doing, right? It could be so. Mind the Gap, for instance, at the end of the year, produces an impact report. For your organization, no matter how small, you can do the same thing. You could say, okay, even if you don't want to put out every information there, you want to speak about, okay, in terms of financing, is that going to be relevant to your stakeholders or to your audience? You need to decide. In terms of the impact that you made, in terms of the challenges and the learnings, then stakeholder engagement. All of these things needs to go out there so that people are able to see and understand clearly what you are looking to do and what the future is looking like for you. Then another very important thing is what I would call exits. Every organization has an end game. Others decide that they want to keep growing. Others decide that they want to go public. Others decide they want to merge. Others decide they want to sell out. Regardless of whether you want to do any of this, it's important for you to decide how that path will begin for you. So if you're going to merge with other organizations, let me use an example. If Mind the Gap woke up today and said they wanted to merge with Google, what would be the terms? If Mind the Gap woke up today and said they wanted to sell to Google, what would be the terms? Remember what I said. You're either merging, you're either selling out, or you're either coming to that terminal point where you say, this is what we wanted to achieve, we have achieved it, organization dissolved. So these are all things to be able to consider for your organization. Now let's talk about leadership and team building. If an organization is sustainable, then it's because it has built a working system. Any system that doesn't have a structured engagement with respect to leadership or team building would struggle. So in terms of achieving that objective, after you've brought your employees or your team members or your partners to the room, is first and foremost to encourage communication. Communication is very critical for teams. What that means is that the leaders are communicating expectations to the team members. The team members are sharing feedback. There's a channel for raising concerns and all. Then building trust. If communication is clear, it comes with building trust. And what that simply means is that as members of a team, you trust that the organization has your back, Then in terms of setting clear goals, this is also very important. Communication still trickles down to this, because if goals are set clearly, they need to be communicated across the chain so that everybody is able to understand what is expected of everyone. Then empowering team members. This is very, very important. The thing about leadership and building organizations like this, social enterprises are highly flexible and even volatile. You are building around a problem. So that means that you can be changing at a moment's notice. It is important to keep your team empowered and also set on a path of continuous growth. The knowledge you woke up with yesterday might not be sufficient for you to be able to deliver on the tasks of today. So it is important to be able to have that clearly accounted for. Then there's the component of conflict resolution. Even amongst teams, like I said, challenges could come up. It is important to be able to account for that. The final thing is leading by example. Every organization that wants to thrive and succeed must lead by example. The leaders must take things from the front. And this does not mean maybe being in the field to do everything. But if, for instance, if you're demanding XYZ from your team members, they need to see your commitment to ensuring that this happens. They need to see that, yes, genuinely you're committed to ensuring that this particular objective is driven and delivered on. So these are the things to consider. By way of closing, I want to say that the social entrepreneurship landscape is evolving. A lot is happening. People are embracing it more today because we know that in infusing business in problem solving, we have higher chances of achieving or actualizing the sustainable development goals. And like I shared yesterday, according to the World Bank, the SDGs present business opportunities that are worth over $12 trillion. And the question I asked everyone who joined yesterday was, how much of this enormous value are you looking to tap from? And remember what I said yesterday again. Every SDG from SDG 1 to goal 17 is a business opportunity in itself. So all you need to do is look at the SDG goals, go down to the target, from target 1.1 to 17.1. These are all opportunities for you to be able to plug into. The on-the-job project is a classical example of a business opportunity that was carved out of the SDGs. SDG 8, target 6. You can also identify your passion, look critically, and decide that for me, this is the opportunity I want to build out of this problem. We are on the race to 2030. At that point, the question we'll all be asking ourselves, looking back at the last 15 years, would be, how well did we build? So thank you so much for your rapt attention in the last 3 days in going through this conversation on social entrepreneurship. And I hope that you all got value. So at this point, I would be happy to take questions before I yield the mic back to Mayowa. So I don't know, we have hands up. So can we moderate the process so that I respond to the questions? Thank you so much, everyone.
Please, can we give some resounding emoji for Dr. Shedrack? Thank you so much, Dr. Shedrack. Thank you so much for that well informative session. I want to say thank you for that. We're just going to take few questions now, then we're going to dive into the next speaker, who happens to be Mr. Tayo. So I will just take 5 questions, and please just go straight to the point and go straight to the question. But before I start getting the question, please, if you have joined us from a hall, if you are in a hall with your people, right, You could just help us on your camera, or let's see your faces, right? If you're in the hall, yeah. But if you're not, then that's fine. But if you are not in the hall, that's also good. But if you're in the hall, you can help us on your cameras. Let's get to see our faces, right? If you're already gathered in the hall. Thank you. All right, the first on my list here is Wale. Wale, you can unmute your mic and ask your question. Thank you.
All right, good morning.
Good morning, Wale.
Yeah, so Dr. Shedrack, nice one. So I just
Thank
want
you.
to ask because one of the things that I've noticed that we don't. Hello?
Yes, go
We can
ahead.
hear you. Go ahead.
All right. So one of the things that I've noticed, and I work with an NGO, and I've actually wanted to start one myself. So one thing I noticed is that one of the discourage young people is that while they have an idea or vision, of course, it's than us. But we do not preach the culture of collaboration enough, whereby we want to start something alone. Then we discover that it's something big and you get discouraged along the line. And a lot from the background that we grew up, people can steal your idea and you want to shield away from people. So in starting a social enterprise, I want to ask Dr. Shedrack, would you advise collaboration? And if yes, how do we go about it? How do we protect ourselves so that, of course, everything that has advantage has disadvantage? So would you advise collaboration? If yes, how do we go about it? How do we protect ourselves? Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Wale, for that question. It's absolutely valid. It's a very important one. A lot of people have not moved on their ideas because, like you said, they are scared the idea will be stolen and all. But I want to say this categorically, and this is from experience, from also engaging in the development space, engaging in the entrepreneurship space. Ideas are a dime a dozen, right? What that means is that if you think you're thinking something, someone else is thinking the same thing in even a better way. But I will tell you what a lot of the leading entrepreneurs across the world, dead and alive, have said. The magic trick lies in. Can we have DP mute, please? The magic is in execution. If you are able to execute very well, that is all that is needed. But again, I've said this when we were speaking yesterday about collaboration. And even today, this whole structure thing we're talking about is if you're going to build and run this whole system alone, it will not fly. Organizations who want to even fund you, or individuals who want to fund you, will naturally suspect a system where it's a one-man show. So how do you now bring people on board? First, there needs to be shared vision. If you're trying to solve a problem around quality education, you can't go and bring somebody whose passion is around climate action. You can't go and bring somebody whose interest is around social justice. You need to be very clear in alignment of interest. What are both people looking to achieve jointly? Do you share interest? Secondly, when interest is ticked, is there shared commitment? By shared commitment, how much time are you willing to commit to this process? What are the terms of engagement? So you are already drafting your contractual agreement. And it doesn't have to be day one that you draft all of these things. You remember you need to first identify when you have an idea. The way to go is not to rush and want to start building. The way to go is to identify a team to execute. Bring them on the table and speak to them about this idea. Forget about that part where I'm not saying people don't steal ideas, but your idea is as worthless as any other idea that is not executed until it's executed. So remember that you're already planning to move on it. So your focus should be on how can I move as fast as possible? That's about execution. So bring them together, state your terms, get their commitment. If others want to pull out, let them pull out. That's fine. Those who will stay, and you will now be able to move forward. And even at that, that's why I said beforehand that if you are so passionate that this thing is a game changer, then it should be important enough for you to go and protect it as an intellectual property. If it fits under the category of a copyright, copyright it. If it fits under the category of a trademark, trademark it. If it fits under the category of a patent, patent it. When you do all of these things, you can now confidently approach people. So that way, if somebody takes up your idea without your permission, you can sue. But aside from that, it's going to be a word against theirs, at the end of the day. So summarily, ideas are a dime a dozen, right? They are all over. Execution is key. Secondly, when you identify people, or when you have a passion or a vision you want to drive, don't rush to start alone. Find people who share it, communicate it. And if you're scared about people pilfering your ideas, protect it legally. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Shedrack. I think we're going to do the next one. We're going to get all of the questions in one, and you respond to them all together. So next on our list here, we have Goni Buka. Goni Buka, please go straight to your question, because we still have Mr. Tayo on board. Right, Goni Buka. Goni Buka, please. You can unmute and ask your question, please. All right. If Goni Buka is not here, we'll go straight to the next person, Mohammed Abdul Kadri. You can unmute and ask your question. Okay. I think Mohammed Abdul Kadri is not here. Okay. We're going to have Moshood Aminu. You can unmute and ask your question. Okay. So it seems that Moshood also is not here. We're going to keep the question sessions to the last one. So please, if you have your question, since the persons that raised up their hands are not here, we're going to actually get them up to come up again. Just help us write your question and put them in the chat box. We're going to attend to them after the next
we have multiple people hands up. I think Harmony.
Yes, they are just raising up their hands now.
Okay.
Right? Yes, that's why. So if not, we would have gotten their questions. But I think I'm just going to get just two persons' questions, because they are just raising up their hands now. Harmony, let's have your questions, please. Harmony, are you here? Yeah. So
Harmony,
if Harmony is not here,
yeah.
if Harmony is not here, can we have Ibrahim Sani? So I assume many people are just raising up their hands and they are not ready with questions.
Yeah, it seems so.
Yes. Yes. So that's what I'm assuming, because I'm calling them and they are not coming up.
Yes, I'm
okay,
here.
without further ado, we are going to go straight to the next speaker for the day. Ladies and gentlemen, the man with the vision, the man who has brought us all here, the man who has been driving this vision for the past 15 years, the man who wants to see more than 3,000 social entrepreneurs when it comes to 2025, the man who has ensured that day and night he sits on the matter of African youth to ensure they are better than what they are, the man who believes in anyone who comes his way, the man who stands in gap for everything that does not look correct to make it correct. Ladies and gentlemen, we have Mr. Tayo Oloshunde on the call. Please, can you give him some resounding MOG? Can you welcome Mr. Tayo Oloshunde, the Executive Director of Mind the Gap? I wouldn't want to read his bio, because we all we know what Mr. Tayo has been doing both in Nigeria and the continent in Africa. Mr. Tayo is a leading entrepreneur, a man who has always being a believer of Nigeria. Ladies and gentlemen, if your hands are not busy, please help me give a resounding emoji as we welcome Mr. Tayo
All right, thank you very much,
Oloshede,
Maiwa.
Executive Director of Mind the Gap.
All right, thank you so much. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you so much, Maiwa. Thank you, Dr. Shedrack, for that very insightful 3 days of insight into social entrepreneurship. And I'm so happy that we have in-depth knowledge that have been shared with us on this call. Thank you, everybody, for the emoji, for every single thing. I really appreciate. Okay, so I'm just trying to see how we can make this as short as possible, so that and to also achieve the goal that we had in mind when this idea actually came up. Like just like what my wife said, mine is about 15-year-old. It started exactly September 1, 2008. Almost 15, almost going to 16. No, what does that even mean? Yeah, 15 plus, right? So September 1st, 2008 was when, I resumed in my sitting room to start what we call Mind the Gap today. So I'm not going to be talking so much in terms of the principles in the way Dr. Shedrack has spoken. My own purpose here today is to really, number one, to um to really celebrate, every single one of us that being a part of our journey, to appreciate every one of you who's been a part of our journey, to also just do a quick, overview of what the journey, to appraise. I call it to appraise, to appreciate, and to plan into the future. Is to appraise our 15-year journey by way of just telling a couple of stories as it relates to social entrepreneurship, and how some of the principles that have been shared by Dr. Shedrack we can glean. So my journey, my purpose here, number one, is to do a quick appraisal of this year and about 15 years of our journey, and you're going to hear a couple of things. Number two is also to appreciate those of us who have been extremely, very, very committed on this journey, and even those who have been committed even before now. Some of them I'm going to just make reference to some historical people who have been very instrumental to what we have today, and also to just kind of share with you what next year, 2025, it's going to be all about. Technically, if I actually have my way, I would rather everybody's in the same one all at Transcorp in Abuja having this session. Everybody flown in from different part of the world of Nigeria, but I know that's still going to happen. And I think depending on how the turnout, how everything pan out today, I think we should plan officially to have, like a physical meeting, in Abuja next year. I'm very certain that's going to happen. So that we bring everybody in, from different part of the state, and we can have some 3 days session that's going to make a whole lot of difference. So, like I said, basically my journey here is to appraise and to perhaps even and to appreciate. And there is a reason why I wanted us to actually have this conventional style entrepreneurship and to do appraisal of Mind the Gap, because right now in this country, for every one of you that is on this call today, my desire is that this time next year, every one of us who really want to run something impactful in your various states, either as a standalone social enterprise, or like the question that one of the participants asked about collaboration, or who wants to join forces with us to really build something extremely amazing, whereby you're not just only now a volunteer anymore. You are now a co-owner, a co-founder of the various initiatives that you believe in and we believe in, and we are co-creating it together. There's going to be a whole lot of co-creation next year, based upon the social entrepreneurship. And why is that become so important? After 15 years of running what we do, I've come to a point to realize that by this time next year, I want to actually retire from being executive director of Mind the Gap. That's my desire. I want to move to becoming a chairman or go on the board or just do something else. Not leaving Mind the Gap, but just leave the space for somebody else to run Mind the Gap that I've done for 15 years. Because, like they said, the most important thing, how they could talk about success and succession. And there's a particular phrase they normally say, ability to actually have without you being the one. And the truth of the matter is, even now, and I'll give credit, a whole lot of credit to the core team of Mind the Gap, especially to our, head of operations. She's run a lot more. She's run Mind the Gap for 70% this year. Maybe what I provided so far was more of strategic direction and in some instances, ideation, and some instances, relationship. She ran almost about 70% of what we do in Mind the Gap in terms of operations. And I'm trusting God that even as and I think you should just give her a very wonderful emoji. Let me give Ibitola, let me give her a fantastic emoji. Thank you so much, everyone. Ibitola, we celebrate and appreciate your leadership. It was tough at the beginning, but I'm glad that, you carry us through the year 2024. And trust me, posterity will not forget all that you and the members of the team have done collectively together. Right. So that aside, and one of the reasons why I'm trusting that one is able to transition is because there's just a lot to be done in Nigeria. There's a lot. If anybody's on this call today, maybe you are like, oh, I don't have something I'm doing that is creating massive impact, or I have something that I'm doing that could have created massive impact, but I don't have resources. It's because of you that we are setting up this social entrepreneurship conversation. All that the trader has shared, we're going to put it together in a slide or in a write-up and start sharing it with you, like by way of, our, what's we call right now, our newsletter from next year, because it's something we are committed to, and we're going to push it no matter what, right? So why is this conversation very important, and why using Mind the Gap as an example? When Mind the Gap was going to start, it started to actually address a problem. And what was that problem? Nigerian youth are not employable. That was the problem statement that gave birth to Mind the Gap. That was the general acceptable norm, what everybody was saying. So you yourself, you can look back today and ask me, what are other statements that people are talking about in Nigeria that I feel angry about, that I think is rather than just talking about it, I like to provide a solution to it. That is the starting point of a social enterprise. It's not your fine idea. The starting point of social entrepreneurship, which was the starting point of Mind the Gap, was in Nigeria, youth are not employable. What is that problem statement? So the problem statement that Mind the Gap set out, that we couldn't stomach it, that got us very, very uncomfortable, that bettered, because if you cannot explain your why, your what will be useless. A lot of people have a lot of what they want to do, but they don't have a why they are doing it. Right? So what am I trying to say is that I want every one of us on this call to go and look at why. Why am I doing what I'm doing? Why do I want to do what I'm doing? Why am I doing what I'm doing? Or why do I want to do what I'm doing? What is that problem statement? Until you are properly able to articulate a problem statement, you don't even have a solution. A lot of people come up with solutions that you have not really properly defined the problem, and the problem is not big enough that warrant a very compelling solution. Until you are able to really do a proper assessment, and that's exactly what we did. And Mind the Gap didn't just start like, oh, a nice idea came to our head. It took us almost about 4 years. Let me just say 3 years. Because my background, first and foremost, is HR. And as an HR person, which you have had a story before, I was uncomfortable with the idea that Nigeria is unemployable, because I figured out that I would have been that Nigerian youth if not because I had a strategy for escape. Every single thing I've done at Mind the Gap was a problem that I had, and I was able to overcome, and I created a solution based upon my experiences that is now solving that problem, including what we are doing with On the Job. Right? So we must not just, I want to beg every single one of us on this call, please don't live your life without a clear problem statement that you are solving. Go, let's use the rest of today and this year to really say, what is that problem statement? For Mr. Tiles, for Mind the Gap, was Nigerian youth are not employable. That was a generic statement that used to be so pervasive everywhere in Nigeria at that time. And I felt that, look, I just don't want to be a part of talking about the problem. I want to be a part of a solution. So I want to encourage everyone. I want to ask you, what is that statement? What is that problem? What is that problem that you want to solve, create a solution with your life? Even if you work with Mind the Gap or you are volunteering with Mind the Gap, the reason why you are volunteering or you are partnering with us should be because you share in that problem. You believe you want that problem to be elevated. And that is why people that do very well in Mind the Gap, that end up actually moving to other great stuff of their own, are people that genuinely believe in that mission. I've seen people here who have been here for more than 5 years in Mind the Gap, but they've just been here. They have really not they've not internalized the reason why Mind the Gap was formed. So if you want to work like in a social enterprise, if you want to build a social enterprise, or you want to function like a social entrepreneur, like we call them intrapreneur, which is the model we're on. Mind the Gap is a social enterprise with entrepreneurship strategy, right? We believe in, yes, we're a social enterprise, but everybody in Mind the Gap is also a social enterprise working within an enterprise. So we want everybody, either you share the same vision we share, or a subset of that vision. That is the only way you can really, really embrace Mind the Gap in a very great way, and you can actually be the best even in your own social enterprise. Just like what the other guy said, you can actually be in Mind the Gap and say, you know what, that is his vision, and I also share the same vision, and I'm the one that is in Gombe, for example. And he doesn't have to even come here again. So is my vision too. So what's the problem? We both share the same vision. So, and when you see somebody who share that kind of a vision, it's going to be a lot easier for us to work together and achieve results, because what's going to be driving you is solving the problem. And finally, what's happening, you see people do very well. There are several other reasons why a lot of people start businesses. One is not problem solving. That is why most of start businesses, they don't survive. So the idea of social entrepreneurship and Mind the Gap is, we started Mind the Gap wanting to solve a problem. And by the way, I had a very good job that time. I was well paid. I had an official car. I was doing very well. It wasn't like a lack of nothing to do, right? But it was like, I see a gap in even the employment where I was, because I was in HR, I work in the bank, I work in consulting, I work in software development. And I kept seeing that majority of the time when I see people, they say they are unemployable, it's only because of little things that people don't know how to do. And of course, I have told you my story before. You can read it in my book. I wouldn't have gotten the kind of job where I started if not because of some of the principles that we now share in Mind the Gap. One of such principles is regroup. We encourage people to don't stay alone. Whether you are starting a business or you want to be a professional, don't stay alone. Have a group called the Mastermind Group. Friends that you can go into the future together. Look, let me tell you, please take note of it. And that's what I want to achieve by the social entrepreneurship thing. If you don't have a core of friends that you call yourself 3, 4, maximum 5, that you go into the future together, your life is going to be a struggle. And that is exactly what it's been. My own first job, I got it. I've never applied for a job in my life. I say it, without fear of equivocation. I've never written a proposal to say, hey, we want to write a proposal for you to give us this contract. It's been through relationship referrals. It was through impact, right? Marco has never written like a grant request. I mean, we are not good with that. But our work always speaks for us, and we always have new opportunities to do more job for people because we believe and we are passionate about what we are doing. So to move forward is that number one is please don't forget problem statement. By next year, January, please, Vitola, I want us to note, I want everybody in Mind the Gap to be able to define what they call their own personal problem statement. What's your own personal problem statement? What's the problem statement you want to solve with your life? And I'm not saying that as somebody that's going to work in Mind the Gap, you must be a problem solver. That's the only way you can function in Mind the Gap next year. So that's number one. And I've told you the story. I can't get. So it all started in my church, and of course, it grew into NYC, it grew nationwide, and like they said, the rest is history. Then when we were 5 years in Mind the Gap in 2013, that time, of course, for those of you that don't know the story, I left my job, 2009, things were very rough. I wanted to go back to my employment. I went to a bank to go and do an interview. They were going to almost give me a job at the bank, but the man that I met at the bank said, oh, but I know you. You are a very good man of God. Go and talk to your wife and your pastor, and if they say you should go back to employment that you resigned for, I will give you the job. Of course, I came back home, I discussed with my wife. My wife said, no, you started something great, and it was rough that time, trust me. And that's why I keep saying to people, look, you need a partner. My wife was one of my number one partner, right? And we weathered this together even when it was rough. Because I had to tell her, look, my wife, look, what I'm going to eat in my house from today that I'm resigning my job, you're going to have to provide it. It was a shame. I became a man that cannot even provide for his wife because I left a job to actually embrace this thing. That's why I laugh at some people today when they see what we are doing at Mind the Gap. They look at the money and they think, okay, because the money comes, we should just share along with them. What about people that are invested their life, invested their energy? They have gone through a whole lot of things. And that's one other thing, like I was trying to say, an organization is not just about the today, it's about yesterday and it's about the future. Right? So after that one, when we turned 5 years, I was asking for more. After 2009, we didn't even know whether we're going to cross. I was going to go back to employment, but just after that, my pastor also said, no, man of God. I thought he said opportunities are coming. Just after that, we got our first check of 1 million from Access Bank. We still have that check in our office in Lagos, that where we put it. And Mr. Joel, please get those checks back on the wall. They are very, very historical. If you forget those things, a lot of people forget their yesterday, and that's why they don't move forward in life. If you forget how you started, if you despise the day of small beginning, you will never really be able to appreciate and have the energy to move to the next level. So from that one, we got the 5 million from Etisalat. From that, we have Microsoft. We have different people. We have Google. We have different people bringing. Majority of them were only like volunteer-related project or contract that we just do for them without really paying us much. But we don't want to get our feet there. We just want to keep doing stuff. We just want to keep doing the impacts. What I see a lot of people that want to do stuff do right now is if it doesn't turn into quote and unquote extra coins in their pockets, they don't want to do it again. Every single money we are making at that time, we are putting it back into the business. We were making 5 million naira. We were building tents for NYSD. We were broke. No, we were making money. We were broke. We were just putting the money back. Some of the goodwill you see us enjoying in NYC today, it was because of the early days when we were just building tents. We were just supporting the NYC. And that's what social entrepreneurs do. When you make money from your project, you don't share profits. You put it back into impact. You keep impacting, you keep doing stuff. So when it was 2013, when we were like about 5 years and we're still looking strong. At that time, Etisalat has given us a contract for about 20 million for the year. We felt, I think we are safe now. We have done projects for GSK. We have a couple of partners. An opportunity came up, which many of you know, in Abuja, for me to go and volunteer. Again, no pay. volunteer in Abuja to go and be an SA to a permanent secretary to develop what is called the the strategy for youth development. I took it upon myself. They told me from the get go, no pay. I said, don't worry, it's an opportunity for service. I got there. Long story short, I was able to deliver on that project. And it was on that project I met all the people I met at the NYC NDHQ who said to me, we are doing this thing just in only about 3 states. Why can't you do it nationwide? We don't even have money to do it nationwide. Don't forget, in 2013, when I moved to Abuja, we lost the contract of 20 million we got from Etsala because we were not there to defend that project second year. Right? Because we're not there. In fact, one of the young people, I keep saying I'm going to appreciate people. One of the young people I want to give a shout out to, many of them, trust me, if they are on this call right now, I mention one, I don't mention the other, they're going to fight with me. My early stage, I had a couple of amazing people that work in Mind the Gap, all of them all over the world today, from America to Canada to China. There's no continent of the world today that you don't have someone that's working Mind the Gap. Amazing, successful people. But I want to mention the story of a young man called Niyo Loko. Niyo Loko is in Canada today, for those of you that know Niyo. Niyo, when we were stuck at a particular program, went to bring his mommy's pension, his mother's pension, for us to do projects. I was afraid because he believes so much in the vision. I'm not saying anybody should do that, but just like what Dr. Shedrack said, collaborate. This guy became my partner. They didn't just believe that we are working together. They became, so we're talking about Niyi, we're talking about Joshua, we're talking about Tunji. All of us, we became like partners that were doing this. Because let me tell you one thing about vision and social entrepreneurs. If you're the only one that believe in that vision, you're on a lonely journey, you're on a stroll. If the vision is not big enough to compel the volunteer opportunity of others, that's why I don't be, it's not a biggie for me when somebody I've volunteered freely for people. Right? So, and if your vision is not big enough for people to volunteer, people just want to do it just to earn income, your vision is not compelling enough. And I know, even I have not been sharing the vision of Mind the Gap for a while. So people that we have around here, they just do it because it's a nice idea. If we share the vision with you and we show you success story of what we have achieved and how other organizations have believed in us, if you have gotten a copy of my book again, you see what we wrote there about how to finance your greatness. We talk about personal income, friends and family, corporate partnership, return on investment. That is one of the ways that we were going. Number one, we started with our own personal income. And that's where you're going to start. Anything you want to do until you are able to build your business up to a level when you are using your own personal, I call it sweat equity. You are laboring, you are doing everything, you are selling things. For those of you who don't know the story, the first project we did in Mind the Gap, we wasn't Mind the Gap that time. We didn't even have money to pay for the oil. Some of you are going to send you money for the oil you are using right now. We didn't have money to pay for the oil. And you can imagine in 2008, January 15 or 17, we rented a hall in Lagos for 350,000 in 2008. So when you see us do a hall of 2 million right now for Coca-Cola, it's not a big deal for us. We've been doing it because we've had a large mindset of how things should be done. We're very excellent in what we do, which is one of the things you need to learn to do as a social entrepreneur. You know, be super excellent. You don't just want to do things like an hogwash, just gather people together in one place, no excellence. No, you don't do that. If you really, really want to impact people's life and you want to do something amazing that's going to last forever. So what does that mean? We were able to, that first project we didn't even have money. I used my official car as collateral, official car, because I couldn't pay. I drop it. That's the story for another day. If you get a copy of my book, you will see it in it. My official car, brand new Toyota Corolla, I drop it. So don't worry, if you don't pay, you just hold this car. Right? So long story short, by the time we were 2013, I had the opportunity of going to Abuja, and then I did the project volunteer work. Eventually, we were able to kind of move nationwide. At that time, we didn't even have money. There was no sponsor by that 2014, 2015. But we had everybody that was going to camp for us, everybody volunteer. I was introducing some young man called TJ, who is based in Edo today. I remember there was a time he was traveling, he had an accident with his car, and he abandoned his car, he went on road. I mean, it was amazing. So I have enjoyed that, I've seen that. And what am I trying to say to you is that is what social entrepreneurship does. Your vision is so compelling that people believe in it and they are ready to run with it. I'm a Christian, so I'm going to use that scripture. Bible says, "Write down the vision that it might run with it that reads it." Which means that the vision is compelling enough. People are going to believe in it and are going to be willing to run with it, because it's no more your own shared, it's not more your own vision alone. It's a shared vision. Which is why when you are building a social enterprise or you want to work in one, you must develop the ability to believe in the vision. It's about the vision. When the problem statement is designed, once the solution is designed, the next thing is a very compelling picture of a better future. You must find a way of articulating it, because that vision that will bring every other thing you need. Right? So it was that vision that took us to Abuja. It was that vision we shared with the NYC leadership, and they gave us the whole of the platform. That vision we shared with our friends, and everybody was all over the place doing this stuff. So by the time we got to 2016 and Google came and they were like, want to do something nationwide, we were already everywhere. We already laid the foundation. We were using all our money, everything we can get, good relationship. Our relationship equity was dragged to every length. We used it. So by the time Google came and said, we want to do this thing nationwide, come on, we were ready for them. We have history, we have manpower, we have spread, we have goodwill, and we seem to actually show some level of smartness, and we are able to actually be the solution to what they are looking for. So if you don't have this sweat equity that already prepared the ground for you, like I said, personal income, friends and family, corporate partnership will not come until you scale those two levels. Corporate partnership only tap into what you have, the success you have already been able to build through those two levels of financing. Some people say, oh, my family don't believe in me. Those are the people you need to conquer first. Right? Because I had to conquer my family. At a particular time, my sister, who was in UK then, when I was going to resign my job, sent me to go and meet a friend of his, to go and discuss my idea. When I went to that person, by the time I told him my idea, the person said to me, you know what? Your sister actually sent you to me so that I can discourage you from resigning. But by the time you have told me what you want to do, I'm going to be your first customer. And that person, was, and I think he still works in Total oil company, and gave us the first opportunity to come and do a training for his own staff. He was the head of the whole department in Total at that time. And he gave us our first check when we didn't even have a name. We don't have a bank account. A first check of $250. I went there with two of my volunteers. When I told them how much the man paid us for a one-day session, that time in 2008, $250 was a lot of money. They were like, you mean? And that was a validation we got to say our head is complete. We know what we are trying to do. Then the name of the organization used to be E-Grain, right? Sustainable, whatever. Anyway, because of our time, let me run. I'm just telling this story about Mind the Gap so that we know where we are coming from, and you can appreciate the journey we have faced, the successes we have faced, and all the rest of them. At a particular year in 2012, we didn't have any sponsor. And we have to and that's actually when this idea of social entrepreneurship started. And arguably till today, like I keep saying to everyone, why this social entrepreneurship training needs to come back for next year is that I have had more success stories through doing this social entrepreneurship training than many of the other programs we have done. That's the truth. We have had quality success stories. We have had a lot of success stories doing many other trainings since we started, but I've had more enduring success stories that I'm still carrying along, that have become super, and I want to go back there. Not people that are going to be looking at, what can it give us? It's the people that we're going to work together and they're going to build their own big stuff, and all of us are going to be doing great stuff together. That is the mission and the reason why we're having this as our end of year, workshop. And not to worry if your data is getting consumed. I'm very sure Bitola will make sure you get something for your data. I can't read what you are sharing, but I believe it's something that's useful. Right. So long story short, we started, and of course, we also had another thing that I also say, just using Mind the Gap as whatever. We also, just like what Dr. Shedrack said, we also had somebody that was very instrumental. I said I was going to do appreciation. I think I need to find a way of going to send him a Christmas gift. We had a mentor then called Dr. Christopher Kolade, whom his name alone was opening door for us when we didn't even know what we were going to do. I remember a particular story. I went to defend our project, in Etisalat, and the person I was supposed to defend it with, they have never used, their products, the kind of projects we put together, they have never used it to do activation for their products. But we just kept consistent that this thing can. But when I went to defend that thing before a director, the only thing he said to me was, "Oh, I understand this particular man is like your board, like a mentor of mentors." I said, "Yes, sir." That was the only thing we discussed. We're not even discussing about the proposal that we brought. We're just discussing the man. And I just, I like these people. For them to be working with that man, it must be a very good organization. And that's why he approved that at 20 million for us. What am I trying to say is that building a social enterprise requires a lot of what we call social capital, goodwill. That's why you can't just be just act anyhow. They gave you money to do something, you have not give account for it, and it won't work. Or people that complain a lot. I don't know how to complain. I don't even know how to talk about my previous organization or anybody I work in a negative way. You understand? You know, so somebody approached me recently, said, someone that worked with you told me that all the trouble is even doing for a certain amount of money. That person can't go far if the person continue talking like that. If the only reason why the person is coming is because of the money he earns, that means the person is not seeing other values that Mind the Gap is delivering to that person. And to say that even at a particular point, I find volunteers. Why? Because if you can't see any value that Mind the Gap is adding to you beyond just money, or the value or the result we are achieving together, then it's a waste of time. Do you understand? So passion, competence, commitment, they're very critical in building. And I'm not talking about Mind the Gap, I'm talking about in building whatever you want to build. That has been our own strategy. In fact, for many of you here, I know you might not even know the core value of Mind the Gap or E-Green, our organization. The core value of Mind the Gap is called rest, resourcefulness, empathy, sustainability, tenacity. Those are the core values. Those are the things that represent my life. That's my DNA. That's what drives me. I'm very resourceful. You need to be resourceful. Anything you want to do, you need to read. You need to be super. You need to be super. I read everything about social entrepreneurship that was available. Every video that was available on social entrepreneurship on YouTube, I watched. Social entrepreneurship, social business, every network. I followed every single that was available. Why? Because it was necessary. All right? And the reason why that became necessary because before I even left my work, because like I told you, Mind the Gap started like around 2006, not in that name. It started what we call Executive Roundtable Network. When it was growing, I knew I needed to start it full time, but I didn't have the courage because I didn't know I was going to pay my bills. I didn't know I was going to take care of myself. Until somebody was my chairman then, even before it was formed, I had a chairman. Before it was formed, I have a chairman who was the MD of a company then, and just called me one Friday. He said, Tayo, he said, come to my office. I drove down to his office. He opened one newspaper for that day to me on a Friday. He said, read it. Because he knew I wanted to start on my own, but I didn't have the courage, I didn't have the money, I didn't have the resources. But I opened to that particular page, and what I saw was a write-up about what's called Mohammed Yunus called social business. Doing good and doing great. How you can solve problems profitably. That was my first introduction to the concept of social business and social entrepreneurship. And it wasn't difficult for me to transition at that time. All right? So you need to be super resourceful in any area. Look, if you're not resourceful in any area of your interest, you're just going to be like, lightweight. When any single wind blows like this, you carry that person away. I know many people that we started the same thing some 15 years ago who are no more doing it. One of them talked to me recently and said, the same thing we are doing, you are still doing. I said, I'm not going to jump into selling biscuits next time because that seems to be what's working. With the problem I've set out to solve, I've not even solved it. We are solving it in an incremental and increasing manner. I don't know whether this is inspiring and adding value to you, but I need you to just give me some encouragement to know whether it is adding value. Right. So long story short, our vision at Mind the Gap is, of course, is to live in community where the unique qualities of our youth are well developed, well deployed, and well rewarded for the good of all. And that's another thing you need to do when you join in a place or you are working in a social enterprise. You need to know what is the vision. What are you seeing? Not a narrow vision that's going to fade away. You are going to achieve it in a very short while. And the vision cannot drive. Every single time I look at our vision, I keep seeing what I need to do. Our vision says that we want to live. We envision a country, a community, a continent where the unique qualities of our youth are well developed. I see it every local government where every one of us are, every state, every senatorial district. I want all of us that's why I told my guy, we are conquered state right now. We have community manager in different states. We have attempted having community manager in senatorial district. I think the goal we are going to go for next year is to have a community manager in every local government, so that we can now focus on our local government and say, in this community where I find myself, in Taraba, in Gombe, in Ogun State, I want to see how the unique quality of our youth is well developed. For those that believe in that vision, that's what we want to do. All right. So because of our time, let me just go. And because we are not together, it would have been better for us to actually stop, ask questions and all those things. So by the time it was 2015, Google came and we were able to go and take this project to vice president. We had a handshake with the vice president. We launched that big project. Google was very happy with us. I traveled all over Africa. I traveled. I was able to kind of, get exposed to a lot of more global perspective about how things are done. At that time, up to Google's time, we'd never even have a physical office. We're operating from my house. At the time, we're operating from a what's it called? From a hub. We rented a hub. But by the time Google came, we have enough money to recruit people, officially for the first time, to recruit people that we actually were paying salary. 2015. From 2013 to 20, everybody I worked with from 2008 to 2015, majority of them were volunteers. When we do projects and money come, at the every after project, we just share something. Because it's about a vision. It's about coming together. And just like what Dr. Shedra said, at the beginning of our strategy was we are working collaboratively. We didn't have the capacity to be recruiting anybody. If your vision is compelling enough, you don't have the capacity to actually get 2 or 3 people to believe in it and work with you, it's not a compelling vision. Right? We need to find, and that's what we did, and we're able to get, and I'm not talking about ordinary people. I'm talking about people who are PhDs today, all in UK. A lady came from the UK. Erin came from the UK to come and volunteer in Mindiga. You understand? A whole church, called Golden Heart Foundation, we became their partner in 2010 to more like kind of bring the social entrepreneurship concept into Golden Heart Foundation. Pastor David Ogwele, we became very good friends. He gave me a whole platform to run, youth conference for them in Lagos in 20. I think that should be 2010, right? So that's how we moved and we advanced, and we kept doing what we kept doing. All right. So what is the other thing I wanted to say? So Mind the Gap grew. Of course, we came to Abuja in 2013. I worked with my peers, and we did a very good job. And by the time he was moved to another ministry, he wanted me to continue to be an essay to him because it was fun, because it was nice. He gave me a Jeep. He was going to give me a house to begin to continue to work from. I said, okay, what you brought me here to do, let me continue to. We have developed a proposal. Let me go back and begin to build it. I went back. He said, but I won't be able to support you. That was the time they were able to organize for me to rent a 1-bedroom apartment in the same place where Mind the Gap office is in Abuja today. A 1-bedroom apartment for 500K. They gave it to me. There was no other money. But in 2014, I had the opportunity of going across Nigeria to go and do training for UNDP, Ministry of Youth, when we're preparing for election. So that's why even when you are working as a social entrepreneur, you need to also have something you are doing by the side that can make you money, not the business that you are trying to build. There was a time when every single thing I used to make money for myself was doing MC. And that's what we encourage people to do. When you are trying to build your own, sometimes working in Mind the Gap is just something that you are using to earn income as you are trying to build your own enterprise. It's not the end in itself. It's not like, oh yeah, I'm a president in Mind the Gap, so therefore, no, it's a place to learn so I can build something or be a part of something amazing. Storytelling is good, so I'll wrap up in about 5 minutes. Long story short, from there, I had the opportunity of having a handshake with President Buhari before he became President Buhari in 2015, when they organized about 15 of us together as NGOs to meet him in Protea. That was I connected with a whole lot of people. When President Buhari eventually won. I was invited to come and be one of the people that gave, some ideas about how to, at Transcorp. It was big, it was huge, it was massive. That's when we entered very deeply into the level of doing things at the presidential level. By the time my boss came, I kept volunteering with Ministry of Youth. Nobody was paying me to just try and see what we can do. Along the line, the opportunity of Google came because we are on ground. We're able to do it for them. Then from that, several other organizations that were doing stuff came. And of course, like normally say, we've never remained the same. So what am I trying to say as I round up here is that, like we talk about, the vision must be the driving force. Then, of course, at the end of the day, we became the leader of the one that was driving the Ministry of Youth, National Youth Policy. Then from there, a whole lot of international organizations came. From there, majority of my friends that I work with in Abuja today, they were all chief or junior staff in the ministry today, but today they're all directors and deputy directors. I don't have to knock before I enter many of their doors. Why? Because we have invested in what is called social capital. Because one of the things you must begin to build as you do everything you do in your career is, number one, reputation capital. What are you known for? What are you known as an authority for? Number two is your social capital. Number three is your net worth. Net worth doesn't mean the money you save by yourself. Net worth is, if you need 1 million naira now, can you call 10 people together and you raise that 1 million? I know how to raise money. My greatest strength is fundraising. One of my greatest strengths. A lot of people just depend on salary. No, I know how to raise money. I know how to, get friends to believe in what I'm doing and say, can you let's do this together, right? And that's been the journey, right? And of course, because of how you show commitment to what you are doing is what makes people want to invest in you. There are some people in this Mind the Gap today, if they approach me and say, hey, and not even they approach, many have approached me and we have been privileged to do some even here in Mind the Gap, if they approach me, I'll be willing to support whatever they are doing. Because I've seen the way they handled the one that is my own. Right? And of course, we have done this for a couple of people. Right? So it's about how you handle what you're currently doing. It's about what you do. And I'm not saying this about Mind the Gap, I'm just saying about all of us. So that because Nigeria needs everybody on this call right now. Right now. And some of us, we are in a position where we can speak and say, hey, this person can do this thing. Can you let him do it? So if anybody is doing whatever you are doing, I want us to take it to the next level. Okay, because of our time. So that's a little nugget about where Mind the Gap had been. And of course, last year we got that grant. After that grant, we've got another grant from another organization. We became almost like a grant-getting organization, which, no, we don't have the competencies of writing grants, whatever. And today, people call us to come and do things even without us writing proposal. We're just completing the work we did for Coca-Cola, not because we wrote a very fantastic proposal, but because we showed that what we can do for them without them paying us. After that, another agency, the agency that is managing that Coca-Cola, they've written to us. Another client of theirs want to do exactly what we did for Coca-Cola. And they are running after me for proposal. I'm the one that is dodging them. But because I know what we can do, because we believe in what they want us to do, we know if they go and give it to somebody else, they will lose. They will have to wait for us when we are ready, because we are going to deliver and give all of our best to it. We don't stare when it comes to delivering on what our customers want. And that's what I want everybody that works in Mind the Gap now and in the future. Don't spare your efforts in making sure we deliver on the mandate that your customer wants. If all you want to do is just to do something hogwash and say, I've done it, you will never be able to kind of build a sustainable organization. All right? So, having said all this, what's our projection for next year? And of course, I've done an appraisal of what we have done so far. Today, at the beginning, okay, let me do this final appraisal. At the beginning of this year, I said to myself that we don't just want Mind the Gap to have a work project that is working. We want to have at least about 12 projects. And I can say that at least we have about 5 confirmed projects right now that we are doing right now that is generating revenue, and close to about another 3 thereabout that we are doing, not generating revenue yet, but have potential to generate revenue. So next year is going to be a lot of projects we are doing in different places, speaking to the same thing. and achieving greater impact. There are new ones we are going to start in different places that is going to be massive in terms of the impact it's going to create. You understand? And that's actually, we're actually ready for stardom. We're ready to be in the news. We're ready to be everywhere. Why? Because we have paid our dues. And it's time for anyone who is journeying with us, who is patient enough, and can believe in the brand to also ride on and be a part of the journey. Let me tell you one thing I say finally on that. For you to actually walk and be successful in anything you do, you cannot please anybody. You cannot please everybody. And I don't seek to please anybody. All I just want to do is, if you believe in what we jointly believe in, we're going to get there together, and all of us are going to be happy for it. Right? So even when you're trying to build your own stuff, don't try to please everybody. Just be doing something amazing that is so impactful, that's going to be continue to make progress. People that have been a part of Mind the Gap, they've come, they have gone. They thought even after they have gone, Mind the Gap's not going to be better. Or even people that still believe in us, when they see the progress we are making, people see, wow. Don't make sure that people that were here this year, when they see us 3 years' time, they will still be saying, wow, you are making progress. That's the only way to make forward. And that's what we want to do next year. We want to 1000x what we have done this year. You know, let's say 10x. We want to 100x what we have done this year. And that's why we need to work together. That's why we're going to do this social entrepreneurship session, another physical one in Abuja next year. Dole, we are going to find that money. Bring all of you in. At least we found a place where we did that, what's it called now? Where we did that, who can remind me now? That place where we did that digital literacy for all training. The accommodation there and the venue, we find a place where we can accommodate ourselves and spend some 3 wonderful days together. We're going to do that next year. By the grace of God, let us go and mark first week in February. In view of several other things that is coming our way that we don't know when. Let's go and mark first week in February. We plan towards it. We have a very powerful, and the purpose of it is not just for Mind the Gap. It's for Mind the Gap, yes, but it's for all in Mind the Gap. So all of us can be the success story we want to be. Let me tell you, we can do better when we go together. But if you're pursuing a narrow vision as an individual, you don't work with team. You don't work together so that you can leverage Mind the Gap to get to where you want to get to. It's going to be a lot of struggle. Right? But all of us can leverage ourselves and be better in all that we do. So next year, like I said, it's going to be about different projects, high impact projects. And we want ownership of some of all those projects. And details of that, we're going to be releasing it, especially for those who are working core in Mind the Gap. Right? Our on-the-job project, our skill project still stands. We want to start running skill sprint sessions in every state, whereby we are running a skill sprint session. If you know what skill sprint is, bring people together, achieve something, just short sessions that we're going to be running for skill sprint. Just by the way the name skill sprint means. Skill sprint means people coming together to acquire new skills by achieving something for their company. We'll get details of that, how it's going to work later. It's a new concept we want to do in a way to actually achieve, it's what we normally call it in tech. We normally call it hackathon. They can bring people together to try and write new codes to release a new version of a product. Imagine us also being able to say, we're gathering about 3 people together and we are entering like ShopRite or Idumota Market, and we are onboarding all the businesses there. Right? Or we're gathering all the, what I now call aggregator, all the tailors that is in the whole of, Kaduna. We're inviting all of them, all the tailors that are not currently online, come to one local place, and we are bringing all our guys, all the core members in the whole of Kaduna. We are bringing all of you to the hall. All those businesses we are putting on Google My Business. Those of us that don't have social media, we are hoping, those of us that need the website, we're hoping that day, that week, everybody come and they become digital ready. That's the kind of thing we're going to be doing when it comes to skill sprint next year. And it's going to be huge. We're going to be capturing communities and we're going to upgrade them. We're going to digitize them. We're going to amplify them. We're going to take them to the next level. That's what we're going to be doing with skill sprint. And the goal is to ensure that we can put many more businesses to actually become digital ready. Number 2 is our on-the-job program. On the job as we speak right now, 500,000 new training have been approved and I'm going to, I've shared out the approval by OSAP SDG. They're not providing the money, but they're saying we should go and use the letter of approval to mobilize other supporters who are going to work with us to do it. As we speak right now, I was having a conversation from the meeting I had, from the program I went to do in Borno. I was having a meeting with an organization in the Niger Delta called Pink, and they aligned very well with what they are doing. They said, look, we're going to partner with you for the whole of Niger Delta. We're going to actually work with you. The same day I was talking to two other organizations, I won't mention their name because we're still in conversation, but big organizations that have resources. In fact, I wasn't the one that was even talking to them. They were talking to one of my other partner, one of my other friends that went to Brno together in the person of Gloria. And she was like, no, you can't be looking for anybody to do this program for you. Better talk to Mr. Tam. And these are the guys that have Pepe. And one of them called me and said, Mr. Tam, they said you are the guy to go to on this deal. I said, I'm your guy. And they already said, oh, we're going to work with you. The same thing with all the states. The same with some of all the commissioners that we met in Gombe. So we are going to be running about 500,000 for on the job next year. And for me, that's huge. Of course, what we're already doing with what's it called? Digital literacy for all. Up till now, we are more like kind of the pilot is ending, and we're going nationwide next year. And we have had a handshake with NITA, and that project, by the grace of God, we're going to work with them to drive it massively in such a way that we are all going to be mobilizing resources for it. And we believe that it's going to even get better because the impact that project can create is enormous. Of course, for those of you who have heard about our project called Say We project is also a project that is sponsored by UNICEF, that's happening both in Kano and in Lagos. We're doing that project. So several other things that we're going to roll out next year that is going to be so massive. And as much as many of us who are committed, I can guarantee you that it's going to be a wonderful time for us. And like I said, it's not just about so much about minding the gap. It's about so that all of us can grow. Our individual needs can be met. That's very critical. But more importantly is that we might grow in our career in everything we do next year. So on this note, I want to say, I think I should stop here. Except anybody asks question, any other thing I've not touched, maybe as you ask question, I will be able to speak to it. So I will yield here back to you guys so that we can just wrap it up and we can close for the day. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Please, I want to go to the next session. If you have a question, please. We're going to use this time for little questions and answers. But before we get to
Loud, please. Maiwa, you're not very audible. We can't hear you clearly.
I think he's having network issue.
Yeah, I think so. Maiwa, you're not very audible. Can't hear you very clearly. Okay, I think we have a hand up. Ibrahim Sani Bello, are you having a question you want to ask?
Yes, I have a question.
Yes, please. Go ahead.
My question is, well, before my question, I would like to appreciate the speaker for a wonderful presentation, and we are grateful for mobilizing us and enlightening us on how to move Nigeria forward. Well, as a core member, the question I want to ask is for us that are willing to embark on things like personal CDS, where we want to impact the society, different angles of the communities, different sectors, things like that. For us that want to embark on things like that, how will we be able to reach out to the higher ups so that they will acknowledge our work and they will know that we are already impacting the society. Thank you very much. That's my question.
Okay, so would you want to take them one by one, or we can have everyone ask and then you go all at once? Except
All at once.
okay, thank you. So I'll go now to Aminu Abubakar. Aminu Abubakar, kindly unmute and ask a question.
Okay, sir, thank you very much. I really appreciate the presentation. My question is uh, here in Taraba State, and I was AY mind the gap. So my question is, how can I like collaborate or partnership with this kind of programs that have been mentioned? Yeah, that's my question, sir.
Hello, I can't seem to hear anybody. Hello?
Sir, can you hear me?
I can hear you, but I wasn't hearing the other person.
Okay, it's also closely related to the last question on how to be part of the impact process.
Okay.
Yes, I want to take the last first hand here. I'm seeing yes, Sahid Lukman. Sahid Lukman, you can go ahead. Okay, if Said is not there, then let's have Edino Jonathan.
Are you serious? Jonathan?
Yes, thank you very much, sir, for this opportunity to be here this morning. Um, it's really inspiring. I've learned a lot from today's program. And I think if we have been having this kind of opportunity, I would have gone beyond this level. Because, Mr. Tayo, you said a lot today that really inspired me. And I'm blessed to be part of the organization. So, sir, my question is, how can we have access to this book? These are youthnomics. I would like to have access to it to read through. That's my question. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you very much. Let me just start from that. Then some of all those questions, if you can just Shadrach, if you can just type all those questions for me so that I can read. Because I was busy doing transactions so that all of us can get alert immediately after this call. Eh? Starting point is I'm going to have to get copies. Joel, please take notes. Please let us produce some new copies, physical copies of Youthnomics, and send to everybody on this call if you have the attendance. But before then, if you have the attendance, let us also send, the e-copy. I have the e-copy I can send to all of you today. Please read this book. I can guarantee you, there's nobody that has read this book. In fact, I fired a protege recently because I gave her that book almost 2 years ago. She has not read the book, but every now and then she'll be asking me questions that's already inside the book. I'm like, you don't value my time. If you have to sit me down every now and then to ask me this question, which is already in my book, you can read and just talk it in and apply it for yourself. But just, I think you're wasting my time, and I minimize that particular protege. So I appreciate you when you ask about the book. So I'm going to get a copy of it to all of you on this call. Once I have your attendance, I ask them to get a copy to all of you. And I was welcoming some group of people to Borno State on what day was that, when we were in Maiduguri, and a lady was showing me the book. It's a copy. I've read your book. I've read your book. I'm like, thank you. I'm like, later, and there's nobody. So I'm going to send that copy of book to you, and I believe it's going to make a lot of difference. Thank you very much for that. What's the next question?
So
Dr. Saga.
the two questions are centered around how do you make impact and also get noticed, and these
Fan-
are coming largely from core members.
Fantastic. So fantastic. So two things I want to say about impact is this: there's always opportunity for impact all around us, and that is why one of the core values of MindGap is empathy. A lot of people want to be famous, they want to be popular, but they don't have genuine empathy. We live in a selfie and selfish world today that we all need to be careful of. People who want to be popular. If I want to be popular, I will be popular by now. But deliberately, popularity wasn't my priority. That is why a lot of people say, you're not trendy, you don't have much. I said, look, you are going to be competing with your brand if you begin to overrate yourself as against the brand. People know Mind the Gap more than they know me. Several people say, oh, are you the one behind Mind the Gap? In fact, the lady was doing MC of the program or the essay to the president, and she wasn't doing very well. They asked me to take over. By the time she was telling me, I said, Mind the Gap. You are the Mind the Gap. I was president of FAGBA CDS of Mind the Gap in Rivers State. I said, really? This is my daughter. I didn't hijack from her again. And I was encouraging her until she was able to follow through the MC ship, even though the answer to the president was, please take over. Minister was telling me, take over. But I was just encouraging her, you know. So people don't know me, but they know the brand, right? So the easiest way is have genuine empathy for the people or for the project you are interested. Be interested in the people first. First. People, there's a statement that said, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. People don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. If knowledge puffs people up, people don't care. But if you truly show empathy, and empathy is something that this particular generation needs to work on seriously, because it is very selfish and very self-centered generation who just want to be popular. We just want to put things on LinkedIn, on Twitter, and other people following them. And that's all they get. A lot of people are popular, but they are broke, right? You know, they are elevated themselves. They know I'm this special somebody. So they are going to be living their life trying to live up to the projection of who they are projected themselves to be on social media. So please, impact is easier when you have genuine empathy for the people, for a problem that you want to solve. Then when you solve that problem consensually, money to solve it can never be a lack. Money can never be a lack. We have a statement in Mind the Gap. Money is never a reason why anything important should not be done. Right? Money is never a reason. I've not done my master's program since I've left school how many years ago? Not because I was just not serious. Don't follow my step. But in the last 3 weeks, up to this morning, somebody said, I'm going to get you into an MSc program this January. I'm like, you know too much not to have an MSc or a PhD. So he made it. He's cornering me everywhere. So you are too intelligent. The other woman in another organization has a PhD, and I was coordinating the program. I said, Star, you are too much not to have a PhD. You know, just have genuine empathy, and let's work on it. Let's remove ourselves from popularity. Popularity does not translate into impact. People can be popular and be crook, but impact. I'm not saying I'm there yet, but I believe in impact first. When you have impact, you have stability, and when you have stability, fame is the last thing you want to go after, or popularity. It sets you up. Fame sets people up to the other. You're not going to be living to meet up with the expectation of the world. If you follow the model of the entertainment industry, that's their own industry. You know, they have a statement in the entertainment industry. It's called fake it until you make it. Right? That's their own slogan. They want to fake being successful until they make it. But you, as people in the development industry, let your impact speak for you. And that is my advice in terms of how to make impact, and also to be what's the second leg of it? To make impact and to also be
popular or be noticed.
Be noticed.
Yeah.
You know, being noticed is what a lot of people pursue today, and it sets them up on a very wrong trajectory, and they will now be doing things for notice me. They are no more interested in the impact, and it's fluke. It's just not there. right? I'm not saying people should not make an attempt to use social media to promote themselves. I agree, promote an ideology, promote whatever you're doing at a particular time when we were really serious about social media. Mind the gap, Twitter handle was about 10,000 plus because we were very intentional. And well, how many followers do I have? Not even up to 2,000. Because I know it's not, don't follow me, follow Mind the Gap. So that when Mind the Gap is doing very well as a brand, then all of us are doing very well. If I make a mistake tomorrow, it's better that I make a mistake, not Mind the Gap. Right? And Mind the Gap can still have a life of its own. Okay? I think I've answered those two questions. Any other question? I see some other hands up.
Okay, thank you, sir. Let me get more persons. And before I call them on board, to everyone who is still thinking, just like Mr. Tayo has emphasized, service before reward. If you try to swap it, you will struggle through the entire process. So service before reward, and we don't do it because we want to be recognized. That's also mindset. You do it because you want to make the system better, and because the principles are already encoded that if you are doing it right, the reward will come, it will happen. So thank you so much, sir. I would take this last set. I'm taking pilots, then I would take Idris, then after Idris would have, okay, one more. All right, so go ahead. Please kindly unmute if I called your name, ask a question briefly.
Hello, good morning, good evening.
Good afternoon, yes. Go ahead.
I really honor the privilege to participate in this project. So what I'm about to say is that how can we be your partner in the future, as we have our head office in Niger Delta, then we have branch office in Lagos, in Abia, in Bayelsa, in Maiduguri, in Niger State. Then we have our head office, headquarters in Abuja. Then we have.
So what do you do? Can you introduce yourself?
So yes, my name is Comrade. It's Comrade Awal Idris Dorey from Center for Peace and Environmental Justice. So what I want to say is that if we want to be your partner, so how can we contact you?
Okay, that's very easy. So I think we just send us an email, right? Send us an email at info@mindthegap.ng. Info@mindthegap.ng. You know, once you see it, we're going to reach out to you and we can take it up from there.
Okay, thank you very much. Yeah.
You're welcome. Any next question?
Okay, if you still have your hand up, just quickly unmute. Let me see whose hands are still up. Okay, so I have Gracefield, Olagoke, Harmony. Okay, I see more hands coming up. So we need to be brief. So I'll start with Olagoke. Please unmute, quickly ask your question. We're past our stop hour, so quickly unmute and ask your question.
Okay, good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you very much for this amazing beneficial. So my question now is, I'm a core member and my TDS, SDGs, program.
I can't hear. The line is cracking.
Okay, how about now, sir?
It's better now.
Yes, sir. Yeah, so a core member currently serving in Kwara State, to be precise. So I'm not TDS. So my team and I were trying to actually start up a new initiative for secondary school students in Kwara State learning. Our scope is beyond the schools in learning, but for now we're starting learning. So I don't know if there's a way we can seek collaboration with we can collaborate with MindGap. So I think some of our aims for this particular program we want to start with the secondary schools in Kwara State.
Absolutely. I mean, that's why we are, like I said, next year for us is collaboration, helping to give life to other people's vision based upon what has worked for us. We are going to be incubating a lot of projects next year, In fact, my goal this year was to actually incubate about 300. But when I taken an inventory, I realized I didn't do much. So I'm rolling that over. So if you have an amazing project that's going to impact the life of people, please drop it in and we're going to work with you. Whether you're a core member, you want to do as your own personal CDS, or is a group CDS that you want to really, really take that group CDS to begin to run like an NGO. That's our goal, to ensure that each one of all these CDS in NYC is able to run like a proper NGO with proper structure, proper standards, and they're able to like kind of make impact in their community. That's our goal next year. So please feel free, like you had me talk about the email address, drop an email for us, right? And we're going to look at it and come back to you and see how we can collaborate. We have a template that we work with and we're going to share with you.
Yeah, thank you very much for that, sir.
You're welcome. All right. Any other person? Are we close for the day?
Yeah, Harmony, please go ahead and ask. Harmony.
Point number one, it's amazing section over here. Trust me. The other time I wanted to ask a question on behalf of some of the participants over here, but when Mr. Tayo come on and everyone was able to resonate with the storytelling approach, it seems like the whole thing he has been talking about is something many people have been struggling with as far as coming up with something is concerned. Talking about, I can remember from the beginning when Dr. Shedrack is talking about the legal entity and so on and so forth. But when Mr. Tayo come online and start engaging us with the storytelling and the whole concept was just like, I can see the smile in the face and the way all the answers are being answered. It's really, really amazing. And one of the things I actually want to ask personally myself is there's this core member the act the other time pertaining is what do you call it, is a personal project and I think someone already asked about that. His personal project on how can Mind the Gap get involved in his personal project, or he's trying to do a personal project on secondary school, on how he can ensure that the secondary schools, most especially the SS3 students, they were digitally literate and get themselves prepared for their upcoming jam and so on and so forth. Thank you so much for the wonderful section. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you, Harmony. Let's have Gracefield. Gracefield, can you unmute and ask your question? Gracefield, are you there? Okay, Suleiman, can you unmute? Suleiman, your hand is up. Gracefield, go ahead if you are available to speak.
Okay. All right. Good afternoon, everyone. And thank you for all of the values you have shared, yourself, Dr. Shedrack, and then Mr. Tayo as well. So I think one striking thing for me is the part where, talked about how to finance an NGO or whatever program or initiative we want to run. But then this is a question I've been having in mind, and I thought this is the best place to share it. The question is Sir, that's to Mr. Tayo now. Sir, you have run Mind the Gap for over 15 years now. For some of us that have, little initiatives like that upcoming and all. So the question is, how do you reward, people who want to partner with what you're building? Years old, and then you don't have a particular financial reward. Let's say talk about salary or so. What is the best, and how do you create a reward system for people who are willing to partner with you, work with you, like volunteers and then the team? Yes, sir.
Great question. Great question. So first and foremost, let me also honor Gombe. Gombe, like I said, today is a day of not just it's not just a day of it's not just a day of appraising. It's also a day of appreciation. Gombe, I really, really appreciate you. And like I told you, there are people who have done exceptionally well, and that we are going to also show, our belief in your commitment, by way of saying thank you very much for how you have committed to what you're doing. Trust me, we are making such plans, and you will definitely hear from us, this year, by way of saying, performance, appreciation, and all those in Gombe is one person that, not just Gombe. Since he has asked a question, I'm just acknowledging and recognizing publicly. Thank you very much for your commitment, and your dedication to this vision. I know that you are very smart and intelligent, and you always give every single thing your best. Trust me, we appreciate it and we acknowledge you. I understand that you're one of the few states that are able also to gather people together where you are in Gombe. So I celebrate all of you. I met your commissioner when I was in Maiduguri, and all of them are already telling me I need to introduce that my Gombe man to them so they can work with him. So you better get ready for more work from the state government. All right. So now to answer the second question Gracefield asked. Now, like I said, and you also heard Dr. Shedrack said, social entrepreneurship kind of
Man,
work,
I
number
get
one,
it when make
the
sound like
social
that.
entrepreneurship,
When they see one, they
hello,
just be on the trot one.
the social entrepreneurship kind of work that we are doing is not, is not a, give me a minute, guys. All right. So the social entrepreneurship work that we are doing is not a one man's job. It's a community job. It's everybody's job. So therefore, you must find a way. Hello?
We can hear you,
Hello?
sir. We can
So
hear you,
sorry,
sir.
somebody was trying to call me. That's why I was breaking my call. So the social entrepreneurship work and the community work we are doing is a joint work. So there are different ways that you can mobilize people, because as just like what one of the beautiful questions that was asked today, that how do you, that people don't do a lot of collaboration. One of the ways you can really, really get capable hands to work with you is by having people that also share in your vision. You cannot pay money to actually keep capable hands. You cannot. That is why when people value themselves in Mind the Gap or around us based upon what you can earn, they are in the wrong place. Right? I'm an HR person, and I know what it means when you say you are doing remuneration. Nobody can pay me my value. Nobody. Right? So anywhere you are working, you must be making sure it's a place where you believe in the vision, and there's a way the vision is delivering to you. So my advice to you, a great skill, is that when you are recruiting and you are bringing people closer to you, let it not be just because you can pay them. Let it be because they can add value first to you, and what you are doing can add value to them also. So the first level of payment that you are doing to them is adding value to them. Is adding value to them. Is ensuring, that they are benefiting with their life. They are improving the quality of their life is growing. That's why it will pain me if somebody comes to mind, and that's why we requested that everybody should give us some kind of a feedback. If anybody has been in Mind the Gap in the last 1 year, you said the only thing you have benefited from Mind the Gap is the payment we give you. I'm not sure that person should be here. You understand? Right. I'm not sure. So what am I trying to say is that make sure whatever vision you are doing and how you couch your vision and the way you execute it is delivering more value to people than just the payment. And I normally say to my guys in Abuja and everywhere this, one of the things Mind the Gap doesn't do is we don't go, I've never seen the CV of anybody that works with me physically. Never. I don't ask for your CV. I ask for what can you do. All right. And do you believe in what we are doing? Once we have share value, and I think our coming together can be of value to ourselves, then I think we can work together. I think for the next 1 or 2 years, you and I, we can have something to rub on one another that can be of value. If 2 years, I'm unable to sustain your interest anymore, I will be happy for you to transition. So don't go and recruit somebody that you don't even have the capacity to pay. You understand? A lot of people go, that's why in Mind the Gap, we don't go out to end hunt people. This person, I remember when we were going to recruit Bitola, the person that was helping us with recruitment, he recommended some people to us. I just know these ones are not fit. They are not best fit for Mind the Gap, right? Not that Bitola doesn't have money, not that we don't pay her. She's the highest paid staff of Mind the Gap so far. Right? But it wasn't so much as in, what I saw in her wasn't that she was looking for money. She was looking for money. She needed money, right? But I knew that she was like, okay, I can help you, because it was help that I needed. And that's somebody who can help me, not somebody who's looking for money. Of course, I was willing to pay, but not somebody that just in it just for the money. I know she needed the money, right? And I'm willing to appreciate, again, someone that I must really, really appreciate for the commitment, for the peace of mind she gave me in the last 1 year of working with her. So what am I trying to say in conclusion is that the best way to recruit and to appreciate people is make sure it is a developmental kind of recruitment. Don't use money as an attraction to come and work and do work for you as an NGO. You are not there yet. Find people that share your vision and believe in your commitment. When you get to that level where you can pay the bills, of course, then you make sure you bring the competent hands. You are no more developmental in your orientation. It's just like when you go and work in like accounting firms, you go and work in consulting firms, you go and work in like some other of these professional fields. They don't pay well. And that's why I started my career. They don't pay so well. Consulting doesn't pay well. Accounting don't pay well. Lawyer, chambers don't pay well. But they know that the 4 years you are spending there, you are actually acquiring skills that you will be able to go with for the rest of your life on if you actually pay attention to it. And that's what the strategy we develop, best strategy that you develop as a social. The little money you have, then you can share among yourself and whatever. Sometimes it's not even about the money, it's about what do you have to share. I give you a typical example. I know some people here on this, such as in, what we pay them, they have other benefit they are getting from working in Mind the Gap beyond just what we pay them. Right? So you find something to just ensure that, of course, make sure the people that are working for you are not like suffering. That you must do everything within your power. Of course, if you all have to suffer together, well, why so shall it be? If where you are in your organization is still at suffering level, why not? All of us will suffer together. But one thing start improving, then of course it should impact the lives of every other person that works around you. I hope that answers your question.
Okay, thank you so much, sir. Today is quite packed. We have another session coming up later in the evening for community managers. So at this point, I would want to request, if you still have a question that is unanswered, good enough, our social media channels are active and reeling out all of the punchlines and the learning points that are coming out of this engagement today. I will request that you can tweet at us at Mind the Gap. You can post on LinkedIn, wherever once you can call out a handle, your question will be treated, and then it's not just going to serve you alone, it's going to also remain there publicly for engagement. So thank you so much, everyone. I don't know if our head of operations is here. I think it would be good to hear her voice. Madam Ibitola, are you on the call, ma? Okay.
Maybe
So
she's busy trying to get all of us, trying to get money to all of us.
most likely. So it would be good to have some final words from you before we wrap up this section of
Okay,
engagement.
so from me is, let me tell you, what, guys, this country, Nigeria, is on a very aggressive transformation level. Aggressive. I don't know what leaning or political leaning you belong to, but I have not seen the kind of aggressive effort to change Nigeria like I'm seeing right now. The truth is, it's going to be rough for a lot of people, but those who can actually find a problem, and begin to articulate solution to it, they are going to be the better for it. I've seen it happen in Lagos, right? In the early days of Lagos, when Ashwaji was just the governor, everybody that can see a problem and create a solution to it, they're all happy in Lagos today. He doesn't believe in sharing money. He believes in you come up with a proposition and you create a solution to it, you can be sure that you are going to be rewarded. This is not the time to be waiting for government to do everything for us, especially for those of us who are in the social enterprise space. This is the time for us to wear our thinking cap and begin to ask ourselves, okay, that problem that everybody is complaining about, is that something I can do about it? All those political jobbers who just want to just wait to share money, state capture, they're all broke. Many of all those who that do the election and all they have to do is they're waiting for appointment, they're all broke. But people that can find solution to actually jointly solve the problem of this country, I can guarantee you, you're actually going to have a lot of global opportunity that is beginning to emerge. Because let me tell you one thing, we also do not have enough resources in this country to solve all our problems. We need global interventions. And the only way that can happen is you can create a problem that can attract global, funding. So I wish you all the best in your journey, and I look forward to working with you in 2025.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone. Strong words from our leader, from our mentor, from our boss. And I hope that we'll all take a lesson from everything that has happened here. Remember, there's potentially 15 trillion dollars in value as far as the SDGs are concerned. What are you going to get out of it as a piece? And it's going to come from service. Thank you so much. Community managers on the call, we reminded our engagement, our speaker is ready, and we look forward to our engagement at 6 p.m. I hope that we wrap that up and then plan for 2025. Thank you, everyone. And from my end, have a wonderful day. Bye. And compliments of the season. Merry Christmas in advance. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Dr. Shedrack. Let's give him a emoji. Appreciate Dr. Shedrack
Thank
for
you.
this
Thank you,
great
sir.
work.
Okay, admin, you can bring the session to a close now.